Anyone else?
Hey everyone, my name's Ellen Goodman, I'm a resident of Palm Springs. And I really want to thank you for the playground structures at Duluth Park and Victoria Park. So I drive past Duluth Park 6 to 10 times a week. And I have been doing that for about 11 years. And just recently, since the new playground structure went up, it's packed. There are kids, there are families, it's used all the time. This summer, I was in upstate New York, I took photographs of playgrounds very similar to the ones that you just installed and unveiled. And I remember sending folks photographs saying, we need play structures like this. And voila, I come home and it is very similar, if not exactly the same. And it's humongous, lots of room, so thank you very much. I really appreciate what you do. And I agree with Max, you need to change structures.
Anybody else in the audience? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Julie Knowles and I've been here several times before, but representing Ruth Harvey Park Tennis Association and all the community that we have there. So first of all, for one really good thing, I'd like to say thank you for the new backboard that we've now got in the park. It's well used every day and just good to see people being able to. But the first real question I've already sent in last week, that an email that you might have already received, but I thought it's better to come face to face and tell you how the things that we like and the things that we still want doing. Fencing was removed between courts 2 and 3 several weeks ago with no explanation. And so we presume that it was health and safety, but with no idea. And several of the players have tried to find out why and what's happening and when is it going to be replaced, but they've had no response. So I said, well, I'll come again tonight and put it to you all and find out why. So now between all those courts, there's no dividing fencing of any description. The balls are already going not across 2 courts, but across 3 courts. And a lot of the serious players are getting very aggravated, having to stop it in the middle of a game and pick up a ball and say, whose is this, and send it back. It also means that there's now no sunshade or wind shade between those courts. There was never anything overhead, but at least it's shaded. You could sit on the benches there in the middle, in between the courts now, and you're just sitting in the blazing sun. Whereas when fencing was behind it, it protected you from the wind and it protected from some of the sun. And then back in 2022, there was some fabulous desert landscaping was proposed on five of our city parks, but certainly around the tennis courts in Ruth Harvey. None of that has happened yet. So the sprinkler water on the grass that comes up to the fencing drains onto the new, well, I still call it new surfaces, even though it's been done for a year or 2 now. And then it marks it all and it wears it away. So is landscaping in the desert, is it coming or is it not? And then probably the most serious thing, for 10 years, I've come to these meetings and written in asking for updated lighting. And we never get anywhere, we never get a response. I was here for October meeting last year and November meeting and said, when we ask, when we write in, nobody responds, it's never on an agenda, it's never on a to-do list for future money. So coming up to the season again, when the courts are absolutely chock-a-block and full, if there was lighting to play at night, people would say, oh, I'm not going to stand in line for an hour waiting for me. I'll come back tonight because the lights will be on and it'll be playable. So now that the pickleball courts are done and dusted, the money's allocated after a 2-year fight for everything for that. Please, please, can the tennis community of Ruth Harvey come onto the list for some available money for replacement fencing and sunshades. Well, one sunshade would be nice, let alone a sunshade across a whole 24-court structure of pickleball. So that's me done for today. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Julie. Anybody else? Come on up.
David Feldman, hi, good evening. I'm not gonna talk about pickleball. I just wanted to speak in support of, I want to speak in support of what that woman came up to speak to you about tennis, because I really appreciate the frustration, and she expressed it very nicely. But, you know, sometimes we have to like beg for things, and it's kind of sad. Those are the lights is the biggest example. I mean, somebody saw that the lights at the soccer and baseball fields were ancient, beyond antiquated, but nobody thought about the lights at tennis or pickleball. I know we're at a master planning process meeting here, but I think this is different than master planning. It's about kind of comprehensive views. We get into these channels, like we're gonna fix lighting at baseball and soccer. We all know that the other lighting has been, it's from another century. So can somehow, your endeavors on the staff level support sort of the holistic evaluation of facilities and infrastructure when we're doing one thing? What is adjacent to that? What is connected to that that we can also improve so we can deliver for the entire community, including the tennis community? Even though I don't play tennis anymore, I want them to have what they deserve too. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Any other live people? Do we have anyone in the Zoom meeting?
If you are participating in our new meeting, please use the raise hand feature and we will allow you to speak.
That concludes public comment. Director's report. Your last one, probably.
No, I think you have the benefit of my reports for one more month. Good evening, we'll talk about what's been, in the words of Marvin Gaye, what's going on. First of all, I don't have a slide for this. And we do not typically respond to questions or comments raised during public comment. But I will just note that part of what is going on is we are working on the shade structures for the pickleball. Our first pass had a shade structure that was technically, I believe it's called ginormous, and it cost over $1 million just by itself. So we've taken a look at that again, broken it down into smaller and strategically located shade structures. But I do want to let everybody know that we are working on that. I'll report first on what's been happening at the level of the city council with regard to Parks and Rec events. One is on the meeting of the 10th of October, the city council actually approved $1.4 million worth of playground equipment, installation, and shade structures for Route 40 Park. So look for that to be coming soon. It will look very reminiscent of what we've seen successfully now at Duluth Park and at Victoria Park. On the 24th of October, the city council approved a $21,000 contract amendment to the designer who's working on the Sunrise Park irrigation conversion project that will convert it from domestic water to recycled water, which will be increasingly important in coming years as the new state laws take effect. We also approved, the city council also approved an agreement for $157,000 for 3 years worth of private security at the various special events that we have, starting with this weekend at Pride Festival.
Halloween is big in Palm Springs, it's big for families and kids and everything that we do. Started out with having a floating pumpkin patch, you notice all the pumpkins tumbling into the pool. We had over 100 children go in and rescue the pumpkins so that they did not drown. And they went home to live a happy life with their eyes carved out at people's homes. We also were honored to accept an award from Live to Rise as being an agency that transcends the traditional role of local government for the well-being of consultants. That's most of our staff, our team there from Janesville Jesse, and we're very proud of the work that they do and the award we received from Live to Rise. In November, we're gonna be serving on November month with a couple of things, so November 1st, I guess is the word. With a couple things going on, there will be a come ride with us at 4 p.m. up at Janesville Jesse Center. There will also be on the same day, I think it's on a different sheet, I'll get to that in a moment. We had a movie night in the park that was very well attended and very successful last weekend. And we're looking forward to or actually we just completed the Festival of Frights, which was held in the Sunrise Park this weekend. We had over 300 children and I believe up to 525 people altogether show up for all kinds of fun and all kinds of scary and spooky events, plus lots of treats and craft projects and games and prizes for all. And then just earlier this afternoon, we had ribbon cutting ceremony for the playground at Duluth Park that was very well received. There were kids on all of the pieces of equipment. We had speeches from our elected officials and credit to our ad hoc committee who worked on the project themselves, including selecting the colors from, as I believe the mayor discovered, selecting a palette that could be seen from outer space. So it's bright, it's vibrant, and everybody loves it. Next, some save the dates for events that are coming up on Halloween. On October 31st, so actually on Halloween, we have the Village Fest, which is always the biggest event of the year at Village Fest. Everybody trick or treats, everybody wears costumes, including all of the dogs. There'll be a pumpkin patch, a haunted bus, and all kinds of fun going on, so be sure to try to attend there. November 1st, here's the other event that I was thinking of that was going on at the same time. We have Dia de los Muertos, which will be at Duluth Community Center. Please show up in costume and I'll see if mine is better than yours. Join us there. And then finally, we're coming into November, we have all kinds of events lined up for veterans to honor their service to the community and to the country. Including there will be drive-through lunch, there's a parade, there's a concert, fireworks at the end of all of that. And it's a time to really stop and pay tribute to those who fought for us and who served and who now reside in Palm Springs, but also those who reside in the rest of the country. Next, we're going to move into the presentation and action items. I'd like to turn it over to Gary Armstrong, who is becoming another one of our staff.
Satellite, maybe?
Is working on coordinating public art in the public parks.
So, first of all, I'd like to thank Lori. Lori has been giving me a lot of her insights and time, and she's been very, very helpful in guiding things through. And I was looking around the table, and I think my very first Parks Commission meeting, it was Jody was here, John was here, and Johnny was here. Everybody else is brand new to me, so this will all be new to you. Artscapes was a big program that we started probably a year and a half ago, and the person responsible for that is Mayor Bernstein. Mayor Bernstein and I, when he just joined City Council, we went out for coffee, and the first thing he said to me was, "Why is there no art in Victoria Park? Get some art in Victoria Park." And I said, "Okay." And then we also were planning on doing something in Desert Highland. And so I said, well, we can do them together. When I presented it to council for this idea, Councilmember Holstitch said, why not do it in every city park? And I said, well, it's money and staff, but, and she said, we'll do it and we'll get you both. So we initiated the Artscape program, and let me see if this works. The Artscape program was an open call for artists, and the sculpture could be in any shape, form, or design. The proposed artwork for this particular one, the call was the proposed artwork should feature imagery and a color palette that is welcoming, with a focus on themes that promote community, healthy living, family, and mutual collaboration. And each of them was worth $50,000 per installation. So what was approved by council was money for two. And I believe I went through this with you here before, so this should all be familiar to you all. And the two were for Victoria Park and Desert Highland Park. Since that time, the Art Commission then was approached by the folks at Gateway Park and at Barristo Park. And they said, we want public art. And they each gave their plea to us, and we thought, well, let's put them in the Artscape program because they're eventually going to get there. When we did the call for artists, we ended up with 40 submissions, which is a huge amount of submissions for something like this. And we sort of went through them, made our choices, made secondary choices, and we had enough qualified and quality selections that we then could include Gateway Park and Barristo Park. So you'll see those here as well. Okay, so the first one was Victoria Park, and this is for a dog named Rover, and it's been an artist named Jeff Sixty. And this is painted steel, it's 15 feet tall, 12 feet long, and 5 feet wide. I have presented every one of these designs to the neighborhood associations, and in this situation, I even met with the principal of Vista Del Monte School. And everybody was enthusiastic behind it, particularly the Vista Del Monte. What I discussed with her is when the artist is doing the installation, we will coordinate having students come and interact with him so that he can talk to them how he designed it, how he installed it. And the feeling is the more the community students sort of understand this, they will feel ownership of it, and they will be protective of the sculpture as well. And the location that this is going to be going in is, I just want to say, I think it's great you're doing shade structures and these big playground equipment. They're really tough to put art around. Because a lot of artists don't want their work to be sort of junked in with that because it's so overwhelming. So this, as you can see, is the only thing we have right now before the shade structure was put in. But what we want to do is put the Rover behind it, and that's been re-landscaped, and there's a dog park area back there. So we think that'll be great. And we think we'll give a good visual when it's photographed as well, because when you photograph, you get the mountains behind it. So that's great. And you know, I always sort of bow to the Parks Commission on, will this impede activity in the area? So I always, you know, you guys say, no, there's no soccer over here. And again, for safety issues. And we spoke to Yvonne when she was here prior, and she helped guide the call for artists on this as well. And she ensured that there was language in there that all the selections needed to be qualified as playground equipment. So there were things like no sharp edges, kids couldn't put their heads through the holes and stuff like that, that I did not even know children did, but apparently they do. My dogs don't, so I wouldn't notice. So this is Victoria Park. And then,
Can I ask a quick question about that?
oh, sure.
How do you keep the kids from, I mean, you don't want the kids to climb on that, correct? Like, is that a safety problem with them?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be able to, because the way these are, it's metal with, there's generally 4 coats of paint on it. And the paint is actually quite slick, so they can't really get a grip, and there's no handles or anything.
But I'm talking about those squares,
That's like, that's designed to sit on.
the paws.
Yeah.
Paws, they can't,
Yeah.
oh, it is designed to
Yeah,
sit on.
it's fine.
You're okay to?
Yep,
And
absolutely.
you can't scale up it, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And interestingly, there were some submissions that came and we liked. We thought, well, that's really creative, but my first thought was, that's gonna become a contest to jump on that. We're not putting that in a park.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, no, as I said, we spent a lot of time going through this. Is this safe? Will kids knock their eyes
But
out?
they can sit on the, it's
Absolutely.
like sitting on the Maryland
Yep.
statue, just can't climb up
Exactly
it, okay.
And then with Desert Highland, this is a piece called Shapes and Sizes. This is 12 feet tall painted carbon steel. And these are 3 distinct cactuses with the big blooms on them. And then this will go right where it says art here, so it's over John's head. And it sort of will be a welcome right by where their monument sign is to the community center as well. So we think that would be really impactful. And then for Barristo Park came to us and they explained, as I know they came to you, about how their park is really bifurcated. and they want to unify the park together. So in my discussions with them, they said, we want something really impactful that will draw attention and be, sort of different. Again, Brewster Park has a major playground equipment, so you don't want to compete with that. So what we talked about is putting it on the bifurcated corner right there. And that's that area there that's newly landscaped, but there's place for the artwork. I verified that. And then what it will do is it will indicate that this is part of the park as well. And then, so the neighborhood association loves that location and they're thrilled with this artwork. Just for clarification, this artist has pieces at the Baseball Hall of Fame. He has one of these pieces in this series in Chicago and in Long Island City. He said the grid that you can see there is maybe a quarter of an inch wide. You can't use it to climb in any way whatsoever.
That's a good question.
Sure.
Can you go back to the slide that shows where this is gonna be located?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so when, last month, when people came to
Yeah.
talk about Measure J funding and Bristow was on the agenda, they were talking about making this area part of Bristow Park. So if that doesn't happen, where would this go?
That is Brewster Park there.
Mhm.
Brewster Park.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that they're looking for funding to get it improved, correct?
It already is approved, and if you go there now, there's park benches where it says art here.
Mhm.
There are newly installed park benches and newly installed landscape. Currently, so by putting artwork there, it will accentuate what's already there.
Okay.
And it's just that the Brewster board and association loves this piece and makes it look great and attention getting, and they thought kids would think it's fun and adults would think it's interesting, and it was just sort of, what is this? And I want to go take a look at it.
What is it?
It's basically, he does figural work, so as I said, he has one at the Baseball Hall of Fame that's sort of jumping in the air with these sort of limbs akimbo. This was one piece that the entire commission was unanimous that they loved. They just thought it was fun and bright. And again, we thought this would look good with the playground equipment. It wouldn't detract from it. It would be, again, primary colors, which is appropriate for a playground. And that's where it's going. And then this piece is called Dancer 6 from an artist in Wild London. And this is a piece we chose for Gateway Park. The people in El Rancho Vista, they actually chose a slightly different color, which is a brighter purple that fades into a pink, so it'll stand out more from the landscaping. And we chose this one for them because they were very proud of obviously their mid-century design and very slick and modern. And we thought this was a little more adult because it's really not a playground in their park. People don't even know it's a park. And so by putting it right here, and if you can see where it says art here, it'll be visible by the residents of the community, but it'll also be visible by when you're stopped in traffic, because Vista Chino is right up above, right where it says September 2024. So cars that are stopped will be able to see it as well. And we actually, because of the way the color gradation is, at night when you're driving by it and make the corner from Vista Chino onto Chinotri, your headlights will catch it and give this great visual flair and everything. So we think that would be a nice impact as well. Going there. Did you want to stop me for votes?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a slide that will.
Did you want me to go back to?
You can keep going forward, it'll
Okay.
prompt you.
The first two projects, at Desert Highland Park and Victoria Park, were ones that have already been to the city council and been approved. The second two of the four parks, for Gateway Park and for Brewster Park, are coming to you as a recommendation as to where the art should be located. Mr. Armstrong has explained the recommendation and you have the diagram showing art here and art here. So we are asking the commission if they would like to discuss, or if there will be a motion to approve as recommended or some variation thereon for the two locations.
I say as long as the neighborhoods that are located around there, if they like where the location is. That's what's most important to me. And it looks like the one at Gateway Park, it's far enough away from the bocce ball court and stuff, it seems from that photo to me, where it won't impede with that either, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah. So I would tend to approve, move forward.
I'll second.
You want a roll call vote or?
Is there any further discussion or?
Yes, the only concern I would have is always the landscape conversions that we're in the middle of, but it looks like that's already been factored, so I'm good to move forward.
Well, that was one other key thing is I don't wanna put any artwork where there's grass,
Mm-hmm,
because the irrigation ruins art.
mm-hmm.
So, trust me, 20% of my budget goes to maintenance.
Gary, did you say at the beginning, that this had been going on for a while, so it was gonna be new to us? Did I hear that properly?
New to some of you, because you weren't when I introduced it before, and then these two, Baristo and Gateway, were not discussed previously.
Okay.
Right. And eventually we will be bringing art for every other part.
Mhm.
This is all we can handle.
Are these colors what we have, what you're going with?
I'm sorry,
The colors,
the colors.
like for the yellow horse, right, or yellow dog?
Yeah, yeah.
It's big enough for a horse, but yeah, so that color's gonna be yellow.
And again, as you know, the visual of the artwork is responsibility of the art commission. And, you know, that's our jurisdiction. And we work with the artists on what's best, and we get community buy-in. And, you know, we ensure that the place is properly sited for best visual impact, for maintenance, for accessibility and installation. So we consider all those things, and we come to the Parks Commission saying, does this impede activity? Are there any safety issues? Great, and then finally goes to council. And council signs off on it, because legally and technically, we don't approve any artwork. The commission doesn't. We make the recommendation to council to accept it.
And Gary, the timing, if it is approved, when does like sort of, I guess, installation happen? What's?
So the timing on this is, this will be on council's calendar the second week of November. And then all of the artists have agreed to get the installation done by Memorial Day. They need time to fabricate.
Just gonna ask about the one in Victoria. I know it's already a done deal. I don't recall us voting on the big dog going where it's going at all, but they do play a lot of soccer over there in that section.
Not in this, I watched them play soccer, and that was a concern. There's not in this area where this is.
So can you go back to that?
Sure. Soccer's on the other end. So this is racket club below. Soccer's on
Right.
the opposite end where the soccer poles are.
I've seen them play right in that grass area as well, but
There's trees and there's revised landscape. This is not the latest landscape.
I know, because that's not the revised playground. That's not a current picture of that, but I don't know. I don't know.
Were there other choices of where it was gonna go? Like, was that the reason they picked that spot because the other choices weren't good
And it-
options?
Yeah, it really was, we don't want to impede activity.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Back to the Barista Park, and I don't need to see the picture. I don't think we need to see the picture again, but is this something that kids can climb on? It's the spider. And then for Gateway Park, I noticed that this is gonna be made of aluminum. Did you consider the morning sun coming from the east and possibly causing a glare on
Blinding a driver, maybe?
drivers?
No, because this, as I said, this will be a darker color. It's got 4 coats of paint on it and finish, so it won't be a blind and it won't be a flare.
Okay.
But you said it would be like,
Yeah,
it'll
like
catch
color,
the,
but not,
catch the sun, oh.
But it's not gonna, okay, great.
it's aluminum is the material they use, and the artist uses 4 different types of material, so he said it's so slick. And it also helps deal with the heat issues with metal
Okay,
as well.
thank you.
Also, for Desert Highland, I just want to make sure that we make them aware when we move forward, because they did request that, so perhaps at the next neighborhood meeting.
This is the cactus thing that he says is already done.
Oh, okay.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah,
The neighborhood already approved this, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
No
that's what I
Cynthia
thought.
Sessions
Yeah.
today.
Okay.
The questions for me? I'm not doing that.
Me.
Oh.
No other questions, we'll have to call roll, okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Adams.
I have a question. There's two different questions, correct?
There are two
First
different
one,
parts.
right. No,
Correct.
there's two different, I mean, the first party is already approved, so there's nothing that we're having to say about that then, the location.
Correct, the first two were
Okay,
already
fair enough,
approved,
fair
and
enough.
I believe that the motion
Fair
and the second were to approve the locations for both of the ones. that-
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. Approved.
Commissioner Hollister is absent. Commissioner Colangelo,
I approve.
Commissioner Davis,
Approved.
Commissioner Diaz,
Approved.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Approved.
Commissioner Fike,
Approved.
Commissioner Finland,
Approved.
Chairman Elliott,
Approved.
Commissioner Hidayah,
Approved.
Commissioner Roddy is absent. Motion approved with the exception, with the absence of Hollister and Roddy.
And I neglected to say the most important thing, which this gentleman here informed me that in 2025, it's the 50th anniversary of Lost Parks in Palm Springs. And one of the parks that was expanded 50 years ago was Desert Highland Park, Francis Stevens Park, and Sunrise Park. So the intent is, once these come out and are installed, there will be sort of a bigger city push behind the 50th anniversary of city parks as well. So, sorry for that.
You buried the lead.
That's all right.
You buried the lead.
No, I'm sorry, my bad.
It ended on a high note.
Wait, how do I get my presentation? Can you do that?
The next item on your agenda is also an action item. It is calling for approval of a location at the Francis Stevens Park for a Pride monument. This is something that was reviewed, the art was reviewed and approved or recommended for approval by the Public Art Commission. It went to the city council. The city council approved it with the condition that it come back to the Parks and Rec Commission for final approval of the location. So what's before you today is the approval of a location that has been recommended by the Public Art Commission and by the city council.
And just to clarify and give context to this, like, I came to the commission probably 18 months ago about this, I think. And I said, we're working on something, there will be a Pride installation in Francis Stevens Park. We didn't know what it would look like because we didn't know where it was gonna be and how big it was gonna be at that point. And this goes to one of our intents to sort of create a theme for each city park with art. And the theme that we sort of designated for Francis Stevens was social voices. Because it seems that every time there's a rally or a protest or a march, it starts at Francis Stevens. So we want to put art in there that means something and represents the people of Palm Springs. So that's why we recommended Pride Monument go in Francis Stevens.
Is this location the same location that was shared with us originally when Al made it is the same location? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there like a view of it where it's, because
Is, but I don't have it.
where's like the water feature compared to?
It's here.
The water feature, you can see it right here.
Oh, so it's, I'm just trying to figure
It's
out
on
where
the
this
other
is. Oh,
It's
okay.
all
This
around
is
the
Pond
other.
Canyon, Rest of India.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
And that's one reason why we thought this corner was good, because it sort of balanced and bookended them. And it's accessible from the street, very easily to get to. And we also didn't want the artwork too close to the buildings. Because I think the buildings need to sort of be visual and stand on their own.
Cause they do a lot of art festivals in that park.
Yeah.
So it would be
Yeah.
around
Yeah,
it.
but it's close as we can get to the street corner without impacting the roots of the trees. Because the entire area is designated as historic lot, and that includes the landscaping when it was designated as historic. And the trees were in place when it was designated, so we have to ensure that when the footings go down for the cement, they don't impact the trees.
Gary, is the timing the same as the other project in terms of the Labor Day?
The timing for this one is installation of November 2025.
What's the size? What's the size?
The size is roughly 20 feet across. Yeah. So it'll be as nestled as tightly as possible in the trees, as I said, without impacting the tree.
It's gonna be
So-
amazing.
So could you bring the other graphic up?
Sure.
So part of the installation includes the concrete base and the sidewalk?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So people aren't gonna be walking across the, okay.
It's confusing.
So the only concern that I have is, when I got my last update with regards to the turf conversion, I think they're in the middle of doing, a slight modification. Based on the original design, I think we're in the clear. I would just wanna make sure maybe somebody knows, if that area is changing or being modified at all. If not, maybe if we do approve, it could be, come back to the ad hoc for me to confirm that, and then we can push forward, but I just wanna highlight.
You're correct that there is a turf conversion project planned for this. It has not been designed and that the designer has not been selected yet. So if we know that the commission has approved a location, that would be part of what is given to the designer so that their design is tailored to having art that should not get wet in that location.
And when I first went to planning and met with Christopher about this going there, I explained the vision of having sort of social art there. And he said, what we can do is pre-approve locations for public art around, without knowing what the art is. Just sort of say, we want to put something here, we don't know if it's gonna be about climate change or women's right to choose, or book banning or whatever, but we're gonna put something here. Because there's a lot of locations that would be great, but we just don't know what they are yet. And the other thing I just want to mention is the other thing that predicates this placement is there's a berm right here. This is not completely flat. So we also had to look to see if that berm was part of the original historic preservation. So it's, we don't just sort of say, oh, this is pretty, let's put it here.
Well, we can't see what you were pointing at.
Oh, it's just a map he has of the.
Is it this berm here?
Yeah, that's a berm right there.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. You want to do a vote?
Anybody else have questions or anything?
So moved.
I second.
Okay, roll call vote, Commissioner Adler,
Approved.
Vice Chair Coladonado,
Approved.
Commissioner Davis,
Approved.
Commissioner Diaz,
Approved.
Commissioner Ferguson,
approved.
Commissioner Fine,
Approved.
Commissioner Finland,
Approved.
Chair Moralia,
Approved.
Commissioner Navarro.
Approved.
Motion approved with the absence of. Robbie and-
Yeah, I think the next one are gonna be fast and fun, aren't they?
The next item is on, it's an informational item on what we call Lot G, which is off of, Vallarta Road, adjacent to the parking structure in the downtown park. It's not technically a park, but sometimes it's thought of as being, well, it's a large empty lot. Sometimes it's thought of being a park. And which of my staff members is gonna be reporting on this? This is John. So John, if you come up.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, I've got two slides. We can, I'll give the setup. And then yeah, no, you stay there. So Lot G, as Lori said, was this piece of land that was donated to the city as part of an exchange. And we were told we could put art there on a temporary basis, meaning it would be there for at least 5 years. So I'm not, I don't want to call myself a populist with art, but I'm not a Maryland hater. I think that for certain people, she is beautiful. And we have an obligation as a city to keep those people engaged and engaged in art. One of our most popular pieces that we've done in terms of most Instagram was popsicles that we had. It was just in an empty lot on Sunny Dunes. And so we said, let's put popsicles downtown by Maryland. Let's put artwork in this lot by Maryland to engage the people that may not really care about fine art, care about some of the more contemplative pieces of art, but they deserve to be entertained and sort of excited about public art as well. So that's the intent with Lot G, and that's why we call it a pop art park, because it really is sort of big, bright stuff. And then, so the pieces are popsicles, lawn chair, which used to be in front of the Skylark Hotel, and then pinwheel. So the idea is these are all big, oversized pieces of artwork that sort of feel what great for the leisure community which runs Palm Springs. And we think that once they're there together in this lot, right next to where Maryland's gonna be, it will be highly populated and great for downtown foot traffic. So,
Gary, on the, I'm sorry, the location,
Yeah.
Is, I don't know if I have my bearings, is lot G where the pickleball courts are right now?
no, that's, so lot G is right behind the parking garage.
Is it where the little babies were?
Yeah,
No,
that's
no,
where the.
No, that's where the
That's where the
pickleball
pickleball
Okay,
is.
so right here, this is the parking
It's a
lot.
parking lot for West Elm.
This is the parking lot. Maryland's currently right here.
Got it.
This is West Elm right here, West Elm parking lot.
Okay.
So that's just a lot
I
that
got it.
is,
Yep, thank you.
Where's the graffiti parking?
graffiti park
On the other
is
side.
right here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So it will be great and. These are the three pieces that are gonna be there. And this is the location of where they're gonna be. So Popsicles is gonna be on an angle. Because it has historically been northern facing, which will stop it from being faded, because it won't get heavy sun load. And it's gonna be angled on that way, so when you take a photo of it, you will see the mountains and palm trees behind it, and it will look nice and pretty. Lawn chair is gonna be sort of, when you were walking up on Grace Road, you will see it, so you will be there saying, oh, there's something here, I wanna go take a look at it. So we're using it as sort of like bait. Okay. I'll turn this over to John. John is my hero, taking care of all this.
Thank you, Gary. I'll hand it right back to Gary. Just a couple quick notes on this project as well. When running through the processes internally, we were asked to conduct an engineering assessment with the structural engineer. That is not something we currently have on staff within the city. Pardon me, there's some concerns with loading on that deck and the decomposed gravel that's currently in place there. That's, I know there's been a lot of question as to, but we've had all these equipment pieces, things like that during construction, so why are we having to go through this process? But during that time, we didn't have several times, I'm not sure the exact calculation of DG all over that lot, so we're working right now with the structural engineer I'm engaging with to get sign off on that, see if there's any concerns, make sure that the proper loading will support the metal plates that we're going to be putting there to set the artwork on. Nothing will be attached to the lid of block G. Nothing will penetrate. There's a seal on that for water. We're just going to pull back the DG, set it in place, mount the art, put the DG back so it looks really like it does now, which is the art sitting nicely on top of it. So I'm happy to group on that. Any questions? All right, thank you.
I just want to say the idea of putting stuff on steel plates was something that Dana, who's the building executive.
Dana McAllister.
Yeah, what's his?
Chief building.
Chief building, yeah. Apparently in California, if anybody, the only person who puts something in the ground needs to be a licensed contractor. So artists can't install their own artwork unless they're a licensed contractor. So if we put it on a metal plate that the artwork is installed on, the artist could do that because it's not embedded in the ground. So we knew.
Was that lot G at one time designed to be stores, and why did I remember years, like when they were designing the park, there was this gonna be a walkway with like work space, like live top work, you know, is that, am I imagining myself?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so maybe I dropped
Because
it.
there's a parking structure underneath and that wouldn't support.
I just thought there was a
the
second
load.
part of the park they were building and that they never did the second part of it or something, but like I said, I couldn't hear anything.
So also across from City Hall, if you recall, where City Hall, the museum, where the upside down car was over the pond, that's been removed and we're installing this piece called Crawler by Ryan Campbell. This project started 2 years ago. City moves at a distinct pace. We just have to be patient, but it was 2 years ago and it is being installed on Wednesday. And that location will be right where it says art here. That's where the not your fault, the red line, that's where the pickleball courts currently are, so that's the location of it. This is a permanent piece in our collection, and Ryan Campbell is really an up and coming artist who has his roots in Palm Springs. He has a piece in the permanent collection of the museum, Adam Lerner is very excited that this piece is gonna be in front of the museum, so we don't expect any public uproar on that.
Where's the car going?
The car was
Sorry,
temporary.
gone.
So some of the art is temporary, like the big cake or the babies.
Well, that was.
The big cake wasn't
That's
us.
okay.
Well, I'm being kind.
Yeah, so some, we are only responsible for pieces in the city's public art collection. There's other pieces of art in public that are not part of the public art.
Got it.
So this piece is 12 feet tall, 17 feet long, and 77 inches deep. Okay.
Can I ask a question about Crawler?
Oh, sure.
So I was standing next to it for the last 4 days. Is there a steel plate there?
Underneath it, it'll be
There
attached. to
is,
steel plate.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm telling you guys, you can't even tell.
Yeah.
Because I saw the beginnings of it being put down and I was like, what is it sitting on?
yeah,
So,
it's gonna be, it's attached. And that one in particular, there are drills underneath the garage that are holding the. plate.
Oh, okay.
Again, city engineer signed off and everything. When I asphalt art, this is something that started 2 years ago. And this is going in at the corner of West Grandview Road and North Granada. This was a copper artist, and the artist chosen is Marconi Galindis-Capicchi. And you can see the design he submitted. This will be November 9th, and it will be started the night before. And the community is doing a big event around this during the installation. They're helping paint the crosswalks on this. We have food and tents and tables donated by the sustainability department. I did not know sustainability did food, so maybe it's reuse burgers or something, but apparently it's. No, it's environmentally friendly packaging. Anyway, they're doing food and tents and everything on our behalf, and this is great. So this will be a nice community event. They're very excited about this.
What time?
It starts around 8 in the morning until around 4 in the afternoon.
How do they keep the colors vibrant? Because I remember when they did, the arenas did the rainbows and the crosswalks, they're also faded out now. and
Excellent
It's so
question.
sad.
So here's, this came to us through Bloomberg Philanthropies. They did a big study on asphalt art, now it stops traffic by 40% in terms of accidents and speeding. The idea is there's something on the road and people stop and say, what is that? As part of the Bloomberg Philanthropies initiative, they gave a best practices manual in terms of materials to use, and they did a lot of case studies. One of the case studies they did was in Scottsdale. And they said, here's what Scottsdale did, here's the materials they used, here's how they preserved it, and here's how long it lasted. So the other challenge that the Rainbow Crosswalk faced is there's a lot of big beer trucks driving over that all the time in the middle of the summer. This is residential. You're not gonna get
Keep it,
trucks driving.
well, they just repaint it and make it bright again.
Well, they will, so they know that, and the community knows this is considered temporary artwork. It may not last more than 2 years. So, and again, this is not a park necessarily, but it's near a park, and I want to bring your attention to it. And then, so again, we have Crawler being installed October 30th, asphalt art November 9th. Rover should be by Memorial Day. Pride Monument will be November 2025, and Popsicle Pop Art Park TBD. We're waiting for a couple approvals. Maybe it'll be up for the holidays.
Cool.
Lastly, I've got 2 other things I want to discuss and throw at you. The Morris Kite Monument and LGBTQ Veterans Killed in Action plaque, which I mentioned last time I was here. This is outside the swim center, and no one really knows they're there. So we're gonna be working on moving them and making them bigger and more attention getting, and probably move them to Francis Stevens Park.
Did the people that put those there have those there for a particular reason, that tree or?
They planted the tree, but the tree has not been taken care of by the Parks Department, and it's misshapen and struggling to flower. So what we will do is move it to a highly visible spot and plant another tree.
Well, I'm just asking, do we ask the families, usually families donate those?
It wasn't a family, it was an organization, and they will be contacted. And then the other one is the hero dog outside the library. The library's requested it be removed. Because it was put in this location when they had the children's play area off the library. And they're redoing it, and they're not having a children's play area in that location anymore. So if you have some thoughts on a park where this hero dog could.
A dog park.
Well, we have the dog park, there's a dog run in Duluth Park. So if there's other areas that might like a dog, we already have 2 of these outside the animal shelter that are city artwork. So if
Isn't
there's
there one
other-
by the fire station too?
there's one by Victoria Park Fire Station,
Yeah.
they were giving them away just like Oakwood.
Yeah.
So,
You get a dog, you get a dog.
So if there's another park that you think might be interesting to place one that has dogs.
What about,
Or-
is there anything at the dog park that's up by, the big dog, that little dog park and the big dog park, the one
City
that's?
Hall?
By City Hall or
By City
by in Duluth?
In Demo.
No, by City Hall.
Could go there. As I said, this will not happen until 2025. I just like to throw ideas and opportunities out for you guys. If you have thoughts, come back to me, let me know. The art commission doesn't even know this is happening. Any other questions for me? This is not everything we're doing. This is just stuff relevant right now that I can give definitive dates. No.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much.
Good job, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
And we have, one more presentation items, and this is from John Berkeley, and he's gonna give us an update on the projects that are going on in the parks.
All right. So Ruth Hardy Playground, this was approved recently by City Council, and there's been some back and forth discussion with the ad hoc committee. It's 2 color choices, so what you're seeing here is the updated renderings. The shade sail, pardon me, might look a little bit different than the others, but this is the same color as the other parks. I believe when these renderings were done, they can kind of do it by time of day or, just the daylight, so it might look a little different, but it is the same color. You have these great orange posts, very bright. It's, very fun, lively, and it's more reminiscent, I think, of what's there, currently as well. So this is a very large park, or a very large playground, I'm sorry. Probably, I think, the largest one that we're going to be doing for a long time. So contractor's been given a notice to proceed on this, and everything is moving forward there.
Any idea of completion date?
So per our contract, the completion date would be June 12th at the latest of 2025. So they have 160 business days, so taking into account weekends, holidays, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully we can get it when it's, a little cooler. We can, not open it in the middle of summer, but we'll see how it goes. Any other questions on Route 35? Okay, Baristo Park Playground. This is also currently in review with engineering. I was on site week before last, did a site walk with some of the engineering folks. Marked up the drawing, sent it back over to the playground manufacturer, so they can adjust some comments there. That's currently in-house with them right now, and we're just waiting to hear back from them so we can move forward next steps on engineering there.
Did you already pick these colors too, Jace?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Can tell you in a minute. Can't remember
All the
4
dog
minutes.
matches
Come
that,
on.
the yellow dog matches.
One quick note on Ruth Hardy Park as well, that is also in engineering currently. 2 items on this slide, the Desert Highlands Park and James O. Jesse Community Center. I'm trying to make sure to delineate those. A lot of people use them interchangeably. I just want to make sure for our purposes, we're calling the community center James O. Jesse, and we're calling the park Desert Highland Park. Lots of times there's the name that encompasses all. So the exercise equipment in Desert Highland Park, that the legal review is complete. I know today that was assigned a number for contracting. We're waiting signatures from all parties to fully get everything moving there. Once we do, that will be completed in 2 phases. The first phase is going to be installing the exercise equipment at the sites designated by the community up there. And the second phase will be putting in a mow curb and the roadwise surfacing. The timing on those is to make sure, we're timing those to make sure that phase 1, as soon as phase 1 is done that next day, or say the next business day, if it's like on a Friday and we do our walks, we can then make sure that the contractors mobilize all materials on site to then go in, put the curbing in and pour that rubber the next day, so we're not really kicking off phase two and waiting long lead time on that after phase one is complete. So a couple weeks into phase one, we'll move forward with phase two to have everything on site and ready to go.
Have we ordered the equipment already?
The equipment has not been ordered yet. That's that contract that went out today. There was the number that was given. Once that's executed, which I would anticipate being this week, and we can order as soon as that will be ordered as soon as that's fully executed.
So maybe by January?
Do we would have this in? It's possible. The lead time is 6 to 8 weeks on that to get. So once that equipment's ordered, manufactured, brought in, then we have to allow for cure time on the low curb road surface and everything else. So I don't want to speak to the variables on weather conditions there, but possible.
I was just say, so you ordered the equipment that they were requesting?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Well, we will be ordering those pieces. Any other questions on that before we move to GMJ?
Nope, they've been waiting a long time for this.
So, yeah, I agree. I'm glad this will be a quick moving one once we're
cool.
Move forward. So a request was submitted by Councilmember Grace Gardner at the last city council meeting to install a plaque honoring 3 women advocates of the JOJ community or James O. Justice Community Center, and that was Cora Crawford, Ola Roberts, and Joanne Crawford. And we're working with City Hall. Denise Goolsby is helping us a lot on that. We're trying to put together, a picture of what that history. At first, we didn't even know who they were, so we found that out, and we're looking for more holistic approach of what the history behind that looks like, so we can get some draft language, bring that forward, bring that to everybody. Say, hey, here's what we want to put on there. Here's a quick backstory. Here's a plaque, and look at a couple different options of what that plaque might look like and where it would be placed.
Do we know where it's gonna go?
Not yet, and that's something we can definitely discuss with the commission.
Okay. Jody, do you know if they have a place they want it to
Well,
go?
they have thoughts, yes.
Okay.
We'll make sure to coordinate with the community group as well.
I know initially Grace had said she, was something about the library. We were like, no, that's, probably not what we wanted. So it'll be a for sure good discussion, and they'll have a place if they'd like it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
And furthermore, I'm not sure if it'll be a freestanding like a rock, or if it's going to be mounted on the building somewhere. Okay, and then one more update. This comes up a lot, and I actually had somebody come up to us after the ribbon cutting today. One of our staff had said somebody approached them asking about, hey, this is so great. We love the new playground. When are we gonna get lights? And we've been asking. A lot of people have been asking that question. So currently, right now, we're sourcing a demonstration. We're trying to source a couple demonstration units, but we're talking with Miracle, who's built most of our other playground equipment. To get a demo unit, we got to make sure it's going to work through the shade clock, that we can, turn it off at 10 o'clock when we need to. This is going to provide proper lighting, all of those good things. And you can see the picture of the unit there in the middle. It's like a green post with the light on top of it. And these are post lights that, if you look to the playground structure, the larger support structures like the green columns, they have like a plastic dome cap. Those caps are removable. You take that off, and these are made by the same manufacturer specifically for the playground equipment, and they fit right on there. So we want to try them out, make sure that they're going to work right, they're going to function properly, sanitize, do what we want to do. And there are a few internal discussion things that we're also working through with zoning. We have to make sure that the photometrics, as far as how is that light cast, where is it thrown, it's not, we don't want to impede in anybody's neighborhood. And also liability concerns, making sure that, are we lighting it properly? Is there enough light? Are we gonna have any shaders? Just want to make sure we're not running into any issues there. And do we need to provide further light if we light the structure, we have to light it back, things like that. So that's all being assessed right now.
So the light basically becomes part of the structure itself, is what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah, you would just take that unit.
Okay.
And just set it in there. There's no wiring, so we don't have any of those electrical concerns where we have a play structure with conduit running up through it. And we've seen concerns in it.
This would be applicable to all the parks that are getting new playground equipment?
Correct, yeah, this would be compatible with all of those.
Okay. Hopefully when the lighting's being installed, the playground doesn't get shut down.
No, it wouldn't be anything when you shut it down for me. Somebody could walk up there, pop the cap off,
Okay.
close cap and stick these on there. It's pretty straightforward process.
Cool.
And then I'm gonna just briefly read through these. These are actually in the capital improvements team. Alberto is unable to be here tonight, but I just wanted to read through these briefly. The Demuth Dog Park, they received 90% plans from the architect back on October 23rd. I had sent my comments back to Alberto today on this as well, and he'd asked everybody else have their comments in by the 11th. These are for the small and large dog parks at Demuth. You can also see the parking lot up there on the bottom right.
The parking lot's by the community center, right?
Correct, so in that picture, the top left would be where the community center is now, the road to the, diagonal on the right, that is the speed there. And any further really more detailed questions, I would really direct towards Alberto. I'm happy to speak on this, but it's just, in there with us, their projects. And then the recreation field, LED lighting upgrades, these are also in place functioning now to youth. I know this was a big project and pretty successful one I'm hearing as far as photometrics, things like that as well. We don't have big lamps spilling out and just lighting up the entire neighborhood all the way around, sliding where we want it to, and keeping the light up where we don't want it. So everything's up and running functionally, and to say again, if there's any questions, I would just.
I play there on Thursday nights. I run a Thursday night league there. Amazing. What a difference. I mean, we can actually see. We can see the ball.
It helps.
It helps quite a bit.
Sounds like those were what was needed at Room Party that they were talking about earlier. Do you have any extras?
I don't think so, but I know there's always talks about some of the other parks using these lighting sources when we get to those.
Thanks, John, and I'll use that as a segue into our next item, which is an update on the master plan and our review of the first draft.
Thanks, John.
I'll do that by saying that one of the biggest comments that we got from the public is, we can't use the parks at night because they're dark. Can you light them? And where we do have lights, they said, can't you extend the hours or change the hours more rapidly as the season changes, because typically we haven't got them sophisticated enough such as if they're on a sensor or something that would turn them on. It's being done manually and we have to adjust that every month or two. So at any rate, we will be hearing more about lighting in our parks in the future. And that leads us to our update on the master plan process. You had a chance, we tried to get out to you in enough time so that you could look through the very lengthy document, and lengthy and meaty document, it was the first draft on the comprehensive master plan. We have, I'll give you one or two heads up as to changes, and well, what's going on right here is there is a work paper. So that you can take notes as this goes on and you can have suggestions. Because we're at a point now where what we're gonna be talking about, Tom, is here's what needs to be done, but where do we start with, what's most important, where do we spend our money first? And I won't tell the whole description of what goes on here. What I will tell you is that at one point, we had targeted taking this to the city council on December 12th. What's happened is we'll have a new city council that day. They have asked that they not have any heavy business items. There's a lot of ceremony involved with swearing in the new council, new mayors, and with bidding adieu to the ones who have served in the past. And so they don't want to address anything as comprehensive or as thought provoking as this might be. So we're pushing that back to January. That'll probably be our second meeting in January. In the meantime, we've also identified that we've got some more work to do on the draft itself. So what we want to do is present it to you today as it is, get your feedback on some things. And then we will bring it back to you, hopefully we'll be bringing what's more of final draft to you for your meeting in November. And what happens is there's a huge volume of information that's been collected through our surveys and through all the research that's been done. And now the more, the trickier part of that is prioritizing and identifying what, if each of the many steps needs to come first, what comes after that, how to sequence it. And we haven't had enough time to think that all through thoroughly, and we wanna make sure that this all holds together and that our plan is well thought out. So that's what we're gonna be working on, and that's where we need some input, more input from you, and that's where we'll be also trying to engage our ad hoc subcommittee for some more of the thought processes regarding how do we make this into a plan, not a lot of goals, but a real plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Shalina.
Thank you, and thanks Lori for that introduction, and I just want to kind of echo what you've said, in that this has very much been the working draft, and we wanted to, a lot of times when master plans are done, they are done through a much more kind of professionals only focus, where there's the plan, there's the consultant team, and they make a lot of the big decisions about how things are prioritized based on their professional experience. But when we came to you over a year ago, we promised you something different. We said that we want to lead a process through which we hear from everyone, not just once, but at every step of the process. And so in the same way that we came to you many times during the engagement process, it was important to us that once we had a first kind of pass at that we came back again for another round of feedback and additional input before we got to that final draft. So that's why you're kind of in this working process with us. In addition to you, between the last time you saw us and this time, we held a similar working session with the working group that's been a part of this process. And as Lori just mentioned, we're going to do a couple more of those with staff and other key folks. So we're bringing you into that drafting process, and then you will next time get the final draft where you can point out if we missed a typo or if you really disagree with a certain prioritization, but hopefully by the time you see it next time, all of those things will be reflected and incorporated. Okay, so I'm gonna just set my timer because I think we have at most an hour. My goal is to walk you through things in about 30 or so minutes and then have a feedback session. But this is the day where we get into the actions themselves. Last time, if you remember, I presented you the high level themes. Now we're getting into the details. So it is a bit meaty, but we've tried to put it together in a way that you don't have to read every word or every line. So let's jump in.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
Does anybody need like a comfort break or anything? Cause it's gonna go more than a half hour. Good to go?
And
Okay.
please feel free to step out if you need to attend anything. I won't be offended. Okay, and sorry, my voice is just coming back, so.
I like it. It's very Brenda Vaccaro.
All right, so here we go. Timer started. And again, you were all here last time, so just flipping through these in case anyone's missed them. You know who the team is now. You know what we're doing here, but it's what I just said. It's to make sure that this process is done by all of us and not just us, the consultants, and that it actually works for you, that it doesn't sit on a shelf. You know the core goals that each of the plan chapters and the document together is meant to, it's been based on in terms of an approach. You know what we've done and all the different people we've talked to. Here is where we are in that process. So we're in this review phase, the final plan edits, those are underway. And as we just heard from Lori, we'll be taking that final draft for approval to council at the end of June. Okay, we also talked a little bit about how this plan got built through these kind of three big elements, the existing conditions, all of the community engagement work, plus the statistically valid survey and the deep dive into your finance and operations. And then all of that comes together. This is where the new stuff starts in the chapters of the plan. So there is an intro that isn't listed here, but these are kind of and there's an appendix which also isn't listed here, but these are the kind of core chapters of what the plan covers. And so just to look at those briefly, I won't read each of these items to you, but in the context and existing conditions, this is where you can expect to hear about the people and the history of Palm Springs, all of the basic elements of demographics and ecology. And then you'll see where we reviewed all of the existing plans that that might overlay with this or might inform decisions here, including some of the plans that are currently in progress, like the airport. The next chapter is where we assess your current system. A lot of the conversations today were about which amenities are out of date or which small items need an update, like the lights. We did that assessment too, and you'll see the full assessment will be in the appendix, but you'll see kind of a summary of it here, where we show you how you rank against other cities and what the details are for yourself around your connectivity, around how many baseball fields you have compared to other cities your size. This is foundational for the plan, but we have tried to present it in a way that it's useful for you long term. So if you do have a discussion around if you need more pickleball courts or more tennis courts, there'll be data in this park system assessment where you can turn to look at comparison cities and have that as reference information for you as a commission or the Parks Department. And then here we also, after doing that assessment, we kind of began to identify some of the big gaps and some of the big opportunities that we see. And the gaps are physical gaps, like here are the parts of the city that don't have parks or don't have easy access to parks. And then those begin to be the things we build on when we get to the recommendations. And please feel free, if anyone has a question, just raise your hand. Okay, then the community engagement overview is what you expect. It's again, kind of stating the foundation of our engagement process, which was really important. It was the foundation of this process. So we spend some time to explain that to anyone who might be reading the plan for the first time. And then we try to summarize in a brief way what we did and what we heard and what some of those key takeaways were. The next chapter is the heart of the plan. I'd say this plan has two hearts. Or two halves of a heart, maybe that's better. The first half are these themes and the goals and the actions, which we started to go through in the last meeting. And these are the 6 themes, so we'll get into those in a minute. And then the other half of that heart is what Lori was talking about. How do we get those actions out into the world? In what order? Through what processes, which ones need to work together, which ones stand on their own, and how do we pay for it, and what other partners do we need to get this kind of work done? Because some of these actions, as I'm sure you all know from your work, can't be done by parks alone, but they're critical to the park's success. So we try to kind of highlight those partnerships. All right, any questions before we jump in? And one thing to say about this worksheet that we've given you is what we are hoping to give you as part of the implementation chapter, which is the chapter that is still actively we're still actively collecting feedback on, is to understand from all of you where you think the priorities are. And we'd like to, at the end, be able to give you maybe like this, or maybe in 1 to 3 years, 4 to 6 years, 7 to 10 years, but something that extends over the life of the plan. So as we get into a goal or an action, you can just note down the number. It doesn't have to be precise. You can say, if you think something really should happen now, you can just note down the number in year 1. If you think it's less of a priority or not the first thing we need to do, just put it somewhere in the middle. We can interpret it It's just to kind of hear from you individually, and I'll collect them at the end. Okay, so just as a reminder, and then because we're going into the details today, I want to point out a few things. There is the theme, those are the 6 big themes. We want, with each theme, we express what the outcome of that theme should add up to over a decade. Then there are the goals that accompany each theme, and each theme has a different number of goals. Some only have 2, some have 3 or 4. And then under each goal are a set of actions. The actions are the practical steps to reach the goal. The actions are the things that are going to be prioritized. But the last piece of this breakdown is what we're calling the community voice. Because the actions are still, let's say, they're specific, but they are not precise. So an action, in fact, I'll show you by an example. An action might be about hiring let's go to this one. An action might be about adding new fitness infrastructure at each park. But that doesn't really get into the specifics of which park, or it doesn't draw on some of the really rich, detailed information we got through the community engagement process. So this community voice piece that will accompany many of the actions where it's appropriate will tell you the really precise things that you could do to accomplish that action. So in an example here, when we're saying, well, add new pieces of fitness infrastructure at all parks, we say, and specifically consider one that is open air and covered that groups like G-Force can hear. Because most likely this idea of new fitness infrastructure originated from one specific theme that we heard or one specific conversation that kept occurring. But we don't want this to be an action plan, a set of actions based on who came to the table and wrote their wish list down. So the actions are written more inclusively to say, don't just do it here, do it everywhere, but we don't want you to lose those really specific opportunities that have come through the engagement process. So that's the community voice piece that comes with the actions. Is that clear?
Like the lighting situation.
Exactly, exactly. Like add lighting, and you'll see that there's an action that says increase lighting hours at all parks. And then there will be a specific community voice that says the tennis community would really like additional hours. Like, okay. Any questions? And then the other way you'll see the community voice piece used is sometimes it's just to kind of give you some of the kind of fine grain of where these actions came from. So here's an example of that. The action is to hire a graphic designer to work with residents and develop this brand identity for the park. And some of multiple things that we heard are quotes like these. We need more signs for people to find the parks. We want signs that are eye-catching. So in places where appropriate, you'll see kind of just some of the evidence upon which this action was built that comes from the community. And our goal with this is, as we've said from the beginning, we want anybody to pick up this plan and be interested in it. And we want everybody who participated in the plan effort to pick it up and see themselves and the work that they gave so willingly to the planning process reflected in the plan.
I'm newer to the commission and to the city, so is this a brand new, like what, was there another plan before, master plan?
There was 10 years ago, and
now it's the new master plan.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But it builds on, it should, we studied the old plan very deeply, but
Good outline to start with. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, I got you.
And we've said, well, what was accomplished that was in the last plan and what wasn't, and which of those things.
So when does that plan end? This year?
That plan, yes, 2014, so technically it's
I got
ending
you.
now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, so here are the themes again. And we'll jump right into the first one. So communicating the experience. the outcome here is all about knowing the parks exist, being able to navigate through them, and to telling the stories of Palm Springs through the park system. And if any of you came to a workshop, I know many of you did, we had this recurring activity called the Community Quilt. We collected over 150 amazing stories about the park system. Some were individual stories, some were stories of history about that specific park that could be commemorated in the park, but currently isn't. So this is about communicating on many different levels, culturally, historically, physically, and more. Okay, so the first goal in this theme is about establishing a wayfinding system throughout the parks and the trails, and to do that through a clear brand for the parks. So these are the actions, and with all of these, as we go through them, I'm not going to ask you to read the fine print. What we've done is we've created kind of like a cheat sheet to each goal. Because as you know, as I mentioned, these goals are still a work in, like, we're still refining them based on feedback. So the specific words aren't the most important thing. It's for you to understand that in this goal, the actions are establishing that graphic identity, making sure that the graphic identity isn't just word-based, because we've heard this a lot from neurodivergent community and other folks, that there should be other ways to navigate the system. And then ultimately issuing an RFP to take that new brand and get someone to fabricate and install this new wayfinding system. And so just to kind of tie it back to how you might do this, I know you haven't seen all the goals at once, but if you say, you know what, getting that graphic identity should have been done 30 years ago, just make a note here, 1.1.1 in year 1, and you can always readjust it. But that's the idea here. Or if you feel like it's not a priority, note it down over there. And if you're indifferent, don't note it down at all. Okay, goal 2. Create a broader awareness of parks and recreations and all of its offerings, particularly in high park need communities. We heard a lot about not knowing all the wonderful, we know the parks do a lot of things, but we never know when, we don't really know how. And then there was also just basic, we heard it tonight, people don't even know that that's a park, Gateway Park, for example. So this is about just on both levels, where the parks are and all the wonderful things they offer. Let's do more to get that out there. So the actions in this goal are about creating a marketing plan. So really looking holistically at how to do this, creating new and more materials, things that were suggested are like just a map that really shows that all the trail systems, whether they're on parkland or tribal land, and how they connect. There's an action around making a budget, like really planning for this and putting it into the budget, making a budget for advertising so you can reach more people through more channels. And then an action about expanding social media usage, because we heard from many people that Parks is on social media, but not everything is there. And that's where we want to hear about things. Yeah.
On that particular topic about marketing and budget, will there be any, categories in terms of, low, medium, high compared to other cities, or things that the Parks Department may want to consider as part of this? We have this, but what might it cost to implement this? And there's a different.
It's a good question, and this particular one I can answer in a way that maybe doesn't apply to all goals. So we aren't giving a cost for each action, but many things that were done in the finance and operations analysis do suggest information like that. So for example, when we looked at your budget and finance, we did compare it to other cities and said, you should be spending more on this and less on this. But it won't go as far as to say your budget for advertising next year should be $200,000. It might say compared to other cities, your budget is way lower. So consider increasing it.
And in a similar vein, but with revenue, I know there are topics in here about user fees and grants to, sponsorship, et cetera. Will there be a similar analysis or data point about cities your size range generating between X and Y and this category of revenue and this category of revenue, and just so there's a sense of what that looks like?
There is, I'm not sure that it's gonna be at exactly the detail that you just, it won't be line by line of your budget, so it doesn't say, you spend this much on playgrounds, other cities spend this much, but it does look at your budget overall and say, it does compare you to other cities, and it does say where you should spend more.
I was thinking in the revenue section later on, I thought it highlighted like revenue sources. That's what I was trying to understand, like if there might be ranges from those types of revenue sources that you're highlighting for the commission.
Exactly. For example, there's a goal coming up that says, set a new cost recovery goal. And that comes from us analyzing your cost recovery compared to peer cities. And you recover far less of your costs than your peer cities. We don't tell you the goal, but we do tell you what the goals of your peer cities are. And then we hope that then you as a parks department decide, okay, we want to aim for that goal. Okay, moving on. 1.3, celebrate and uplift the diverse cultures of Palm Springs within the park system. This is about commemoration. We heard some of the plaques that are being suggested for James or Jesse. There are millions, well, let's say hundreds more stories like that we heard through the community quilt. And so just some of the ways that the actions support that are about installing commemorative landscapes. This is actually going beyond just the plaque. How can you integrate these stories into the actual park space? And we could say more of that if we had more time. We know that there are tribal stories within some of the parks now, but we heard about the opportunity for there to be so much more and done in collaboration with the tribe. This one the next one I want to take a moment on because we heard so much about the Arts and Park program tonight. What this is about is really about local artists. And we heard from folks that there isn't an opportunity for all of the local and maybe not high profile artists to share their art. And so what this is an action around maybe something that's rotating, seasonal, but that's another layer of art that is more local. I can't see what the other
Can you
ones-
move the thing over to the right?
I think it's about it's a cultural committee, I believe. Yes, this is about inviting people from the community to to be an advisory board on topics of culture and art and in the park. Okay, I'm gonna move a bit faster so it's on time. There we go. Okay, so now we are into theme number 2. This is about connecting people and places. The outcome here is, as it states, more connectivity between parks, trails, and neighborhoods and the people that inhabit them. So the first goal is really around trailheads. If you saw the results from the community, the statistically valid survey, it was trails, trails, trails at the top of almost every list. So this goal is about enhancing those amenities, and there are lots of actions. So it's 2 pages of actions. So the first set of 3 is about creating design standards. And you'll see a lot of these actions that are around setting standards. Instead of just jumping to adding the new amenities, we want to also give you the 10-year thing that you can do to ensure the future of the system. So we say things like create these design standards so that in perpetuity, when a new trail is added or when a trail is upgraded, there's this baseline that you all have established for what should happen. The next one is about expanding trails, particularly in parts of the city that could have trail access but don't. And then there's a lot of, the next one is about educational kiosks, so people can understand more about what they're seeing and encountering along the trails. The other actions in this goal are about a baseline of accessibility. We know that there are certain ADA restrictions that by law need to happen. This is about establishing a higher baseline of accessibility. Again, we heard from the community of neurodivergent folks and parents and others that there could be more done to make the trails accessible to an even wider group of people. Highlight points of interest. So this is, there are many cultural opportunities. So this is about kind of making these the sites, the trails more interactive. And the last one is about loops. Now we know that there are already loops within the city. This kind of goes back to communicating the system. Some of them are not, what we've heard is that it's not easy to know, like if I feel like doing a 5-mile loop that isn't just a trail, maybe it's a bike path to a trail, to a park walking path. It'd be great if someone could just kind of give me a menu of the different ways that I could do a small short loop that's easy or a long loop that's medium. So this is about kind of trying to look across the whole system and call those out. Next one is about see that we already did that one. Okay, this is about within and between the parks and parks facilities and trails. So the first one is about working with the planning department to identify key routes that could be connective paths, adding bike lanes, traffic calming measures, establishing a bike share service and docking stations within the park. Ciclavia days, this is about how the Parks Department might be able to open up the streets around the parks for biking and walking that then draw people into the parks on the weekends. And then connect access to neighboring cities. So we know there's CB Link and we know that there are some opportunities already to do that, but some folks drew out their preferred connections to other places and their ideas for how to get there. Okay, climate, keeping it cool. This is the third theme. This is about climate resilience and ecological health, and it's about building in more and more sustainable practices and infrastructure across the parks and keeping it cool. So the first one is about climate change and park design. So again, this is about setting design standards. It's about adding shade and cooling across the system in many of the ways we heard tonight. Shade structures, misters, those kinds of things, splash water features that are interactive. It's also about how we manage stormwater in a more nature-based way. And again, some of these long-term things, creating a shade master plan so that when someone can take a comprehensive look at where shade is needed, whether it's over sports courts or whether it's through more trees, and there can be this kind of larger plan guiding the park system so that it doesn't have to kind of respond to the loudest voice at the moment, but there's a more long-term way to get shade in all the places it's needed. The next is ecological health and climate resilience. This has a lot of actions. So this is about a more water-wise landscaping, demonstration gardens, tree planting programs, ways to bring kind of more pollinators and birds, so more active habitat to the parks where appropriate. Establishing some ways of monitoring how climate change is affecting the park system. Again, thinking over the long term, so we aren't caught off guard, but we know when things are changing and we can adapt. And then using the parks as a way to bring people, residents of the city, into these challenges, ways to educate them about them, not just lessons about the parks, but lessons that then they can take into their everyday lives. This one, we heard a lot about this tonight. Making it possible for people to use all of the wonderful amenities of the parks when it's cooler in the day. So this is about both expanding programs to cooler hours by having them open later and turning on the lights. And it's also about thinking about more indoor facilities. So we know at James O'Jesse that it would be great to kind of take advantage of the extra land around the park, but we also know that the high winds are a big factor there. So some place like James O'Jesse would be a great place to invest in more indoor facilities that could also be an opportunity and a way for people to keep it cool. Okay, we're on number 4, doing okay. This is about renewing the system. So this is really about taking the system that's there. It's again, a lot of what we heard tonight, and not just moving on to where do we need new parks or where do we need to expand things, but how do we also take what we have and make it even better. And you all are doing so much of that. Every time I come to a commission meeting and hear the director's report, we hear about all of the ways that you're already doing that. So the plan will list all of the great work that's already in progress elsewhere in the plan. And then this is the area where we talk about how to invest in that current system and kind of bringing the updates where needed. So one of the goals is around all of the improvements that would improve perceived and physical safety in the park. This is also gets back to this idea of extending lit hours. Also, we heard a lot about it's just hard to tell people what's going on in the parks. And so there's an opportunity to develop a safety reporting program that could be really useful to the Parks Department to understand more in real time of what is causing these different perceptions of safety. Okay, the next one is about maintenance, improving the parks and parks facilities, and not just improving what needs improving now, but finding new ways of monitoring that maintenance so that it can be regularly kept up with. And there's 6 actions here. So one is about just increasing maintenance at the trailheads. The other is to do a full audit of parks. We did a preliminary pass of all of your existing conditions, but could go even deeper to really audit things like some of the things we heard today, like the age of lighting or the age of sound systems. We encountered it in some of the James O'Jesse gym, for example, some of the challenges around the acoustic system. So really taking the time to do that audit so you can make better investments in the repairs, establishing a new routine maintenance inspections. I know that those are already done, but kind of looking at the frequency, and then looking for how you can add proactive maintenance into the maintenance system, and then how you can digitize the record system. This was, I think, something that came up in the working group, that the kind of a lot of park systems have moved to these kind of digital repair tickets, and how is something like that appropriate here? And then the last one is about simply increasing the recycling options available at parks, at the existing parks, to go beyond the blue and the trash, the blue and the landfill, but kind of expand that set. Okay, we're almost there. We're at theme number 5. Now we really get into the, a lot of the operations stuff start to show up in 5 and are also there in 6. So stewarding the future is about evaluation. The outcome is about better evaluation, better funding, and the management of the park system. This gets into your questions, Rod, where a lot of this is built off of the analysis of your operations. So one goal is around establishing key performance metrics for staffing needs and sustainability. And this goal has actions around doing a deeper staffing study that really does compare you to peer cities, making adjustments to staffing levels. What we did in our evaluation showed that the staffing levels are low compared to peer cities in many ways. And then we also saw that there isn't, this is about implementing a routine way of collecting feedback from your park users that could also inform staffing needs. And though there are some opportunities to do that, it seems to be missing kind of a routine annual survey of park users or something like that. Okay, this is about the cost recovery. So this goal is about increasing that cost recovery percentage. The actions here are about setting that new goal as a part of the comparative analysis with other cities. And then once you have that goal, it's doing things like establishing dynamic pricing strategies and identifying priority pricing changes that could help in reaching that new cost recovery goal. Now, in the action, this gets very technical and specific. In the actions, you're not, even when you're at the final draft, you're not going to see all of the numbers that you're asking about, Rod. But when you go to the kind of analysis, that's one of the earlier chapters, you'll see a lot more there. And then in the appendix, you'll really see the details that support how to do this.
Is there an industry standard for the cost recovery goal?
There is, and I could find it for you, but there is.
I'll just say that we are below the fourth quartile.
Okay, the next goal is about increasing funding for parks operations and programming. This is about adding new funding layers. And again, in the analysis, there's lots of suggestions for how to do it. So we don't just say, go out and get more money. We kind of give you some pathways to do that. And then committing to kind of how that funding has an equitable distribution. That doesn't mean equal, of course, that just means being able to articulate how funding is distributed across the city from a transparency perspective and equity perspective. Okay, the next one is about supported services within the parks facilities. We heard a lot from people that our parks could do even more for us. I'm sure as a parks department, we know you are already doing so much, but people wanted to be able to think of the parks as kind of community resources too, beyond just meeting their recreational and leisure needs. So this goal is about thinking about the parks as resource centers in different ways, and there's a bit more detail about it, and thinking about how park staff might be, or a person within the parks might be able to connect people to other resources that are outside of what the park system itself or parks department itself might be able to offer. Okay, creating a process for funding deferred maintenance. And this is really the goal that talks about how you create a prioritization process for repairs, and then how you get your hands dirty and start doing, or not continue doing that, I should say, because that's well underway. All right, we're at the last one, expanding the impact. The outcome here is making sure that the park system can reach even more people, especially the people that it isn't currently reaching well. And the first one is by doing the simplest thing, which is, sorry, it's not simple, but it is the most visible thing, which is identifying where there are park deserts in the city and making the long range plan to get parks into those deserts so that you can say that in 10 years that every resident of Palm Springs is within a 10-minute walk of Oak Park. At the moment, I think you're at 34% are within a walk at 10 minutes. So things here are about building parks and park deserts. This is one of the few places where we do take a standard, Rod, and put it in an action because it's such a widely kind of accepted standard. So we recommend like just go for the standard. And then there's more about conducting an even finer grain audit to understand these gaps as part of the planning process. And then this last one is about what you can do in the meantime in these areas that don't have parks. And it's about creating a mobile recreation program where basically you have a park in a box and the park comes to you and it takes over your street for a day or a weekend. Okay, expand existing parks and facilities. This is about looking at the existing event spaces. This is about the aquatics facilities. That is after trails. That's another one that we heard about from almost everyone, especially in relation to keeping it cool. And then thinking about facilities like the digital equity one is around access to computer labs at some of the community centers, et cetera, making sure that those are at the cutting edge. Design standards for universal accessibility. This is again we know that ADA is met here, but this is about expanding, this whole theme is about expanding the impact. So that's using, thinking about accessibility as ways to reach new populations in better ways. So again, hearing from establishing an active adaptive recreation program, increasing sensory friendly areas across your parks, and this kind of hints back to that multi-sensory wayfinding. And then this one's about programming. This is about equitable distribution about programming, because we saw that there are programming gaps geographically across the city. And there are certain demographics for whom programming is not reaching as comprehensively as other demographics. So this is about clustering programs in different parts of the city. It's about not just having programs for seniors and for youth, but intergenerational programs where seniors and youth can have opportunities to be in programming and be in activities together. Expanding services to teens and seniors. Teens, we heard and saw in some of our analysis, are particularly have less programming than comparison cities. And then, of course, investing in the staff training to be able to support this wider variety of programming. And then looking at how to do that, understanding that the Parks Department alone shouldn't and likely can't do all of those things. So looking at how you can expand the impact by initiating and expanding joint use with schools. That's some of the easiest way to increase park access is by opening up schoolyards on the weekends. And then partnering with community organizations to provide more programming. And then the last one is about diversifying, I think this is the last one, diversifying active fitness opportunities. And here, this is about, again, looking outside to say who are the other health organizations that would like to provide programming in the park and have the budget and the capacity to do so. They just lack the space. The next is about investing in fitness infrastructure in more parks, and you are already doing that. And then expanding the fitness programming. Okay, so then implementation is what is going to come next. There's a draft of it that it's being shaped, but I just want you to know how it works. So once you have all of these actions, some of them are what we call act nows. These are things you could do tomorrow. Well, it might take a week, but you could turn on the lights at a particular tennis court for an extra hour, let's say within a short amount of time. And they're kind of these one and done things that we encourage you to take on in year one and get them done to build momentum and to show commitment to the plan. But then there are a lot of other things that can't be done in just one quick step. And they shouldn't be done even if they could. You shouldn't just go build 5 new parks tomorrow, because you should first plan. You should you should do the finer grain audit. You should understand other important factors around kind of what city loan land is available. You might want to partner with the planning department or the real estate department to do this process. And then finally, you will build those parks. So we tried to show you clearly how those things fit together within the action, so you don't guess at which actions go together. And those are kind of these act incrementally actions where they have multiple steps or multiple actions come together. And then when we get into this prioritization plan, what you'll see is that these act nows will more or less be in year one. But then there'll be this prioritization thing where there will be different act incrementalities, and there will be some that have the star. Those will be the priorities. And those you'll see starting in year one. They may not finish in year one. Some, like this one that's just an example, would take 4 years to finish. But because it's a priority, you should not wait to get started on it. And then there may be ones that you start in year one, but they're really long range things. So it might take you the whole plan time period to get it done. And then there will be other things that are act incrementally, that are still a series of steps, but they're not the priority. So those might be things that start in year 3 or start in year 4. It could take a long time or a short time. But this is how we're thinking now about how to kind of give you something that you can really use to take what is going to end up being a long list of actions and know what to do with that. That's it.
The last planning, 10 years of the last, was everything accomplished? I'm new, so of the things that weren't accomplished, do you look at the last 10 years and say, we were wrong on this or this and this, and then you don't implement them to the new ideas?
Yeah, that was part of the plan study. You know, the last plan was laid out differently. It didn't have an implementation framework in the way that we really want to set you up to have. So it's a little.
It was more like a wish list.
Yeah, it had a lot of stuff that you could work with, and yeah, it wasn't quite. We wanted there to be no questions about what you should have done when, and if you can't, like, no one, even in the best laid plan, a master plan is not going to be fully accomplished. But the goal is for the city residents to be able to hold you all accountable, and you all to be able to hold each other accountable. And so if the act now said extend the lights, and 10 years the lighting hours are still the same, then maybe there's a really good reason for it, but at least you all will know, you'll expect to hear from residents, why didn't these lighting hours get extended? They'll be able to say to you, why didn't you extend the lights? And then you can have a conversation. All right, so I'd love to use the remaining few minutes, or I guess in the hour block, we have 15 minutes left, but I'd love to hear from you, take your questions, if you want to share some of the things that were priorities for you. And importantly, it's still a fine time to say, I didn't see any action about this. Where's that?
I want to add something in there. And that is that when this goes to the city council, I'd like to take it as a two-piece recommendation. The first be that the city council approves the 10-year master plan, but then the second part is that they approve the plan for year one and any resources, whether it's money or people to go with. And this is something we've talked about a little bit, and that's why I think it's very important to hear from everybody on what you think is most important. I will tell you that with the budget constraints being what they are, or with the budget condition being what it is, I'm going to think it will be a lot more approvable if we look first at some of the action items that can be done for almost no money, or can be done, that takes some planning first, so we can get started in those. But what that does is, and then as part of making, ourselves accountable, is that I'm going to suggest that we come back every year, once a year, to the city council and say, here's what we got done, here's what we didn't get done. Here's what we plan for the next year, and here are the resources we need from you in order to accomplish it. I'm sure we've all seen plans that never, that get adopted and nothing ever happens, and so, I think that we need to step up to make it, first of all, tangible year by year, which is why what's laid out is going to be a real help for doing this, but we need to also be, come back and hold ourselves responsible for coming back and assessing every year where we are and what we're gonna do the following year. And if we are able to do that, we will build credibility with the city council, and they, I believe, will be more likely to want to apply the resources here, that we asked for, because we are fulfilling the overall plan, as opposed to the plans that we see that get adopted and kind of run bush. So, actually, instead, we'd really like to hear from you the things that you think are most important that we should start with.
Happy to start. I wrote down, I took some notes. And I wrote goal 1.2 and I forgot what it was, so I had to look back to it, but I think that it's so important. Yes, sorry. The goal 1.2, I think overall, we have to have people aware of what our park system is generally first and foremost. And so, I mean, I know that aside from knowing it through here, I get a lot of my information from, I love Downtown Palm Springs website on Facebook. So I don't know about everything there. Is there a Parks and Rec Facebook page that gives everything and connects all the parks together? I'm just curious, because that could be something interesting.
There is, but we're in Facebook jail right now, and have been since February, partly. Apparently, so we're.
Who was naughty? No,
Don't know, but we're trying to.
Just because that's something we could do so quickly and fast, and it's just making everyone aware of the parks before you start building new parks.
Yeah, thanks, that's great, and that is an act now. So it's there, and I'm glad that it's great to have validation that that's important.
I have a lot on Act Now, I gotta tell you, which
Great.
I know is not
No, that's
realistic for the most part. But to me, some of the easy things are things like telling people where things are, when they're open. Making them accessible to everybody, not just, able-bodied people or whatever. For example, I don't know how long I've been asking for this, probably a year. There is nothing that tells you if you go to the large dog park at Demuth Park where the small dog park is. Nothing. So if you don't know where it is, you're out of luck. To me, that's an Act Now easy. It's a sign. A sign. How hard is a sign? So I tried to sort of think about my Act Nows as things that were not expensive and easy to achieve. Right? Because those are quick wins, and then the community sees like, crap, these guys really are trying to do something, and those little things hopefully then lead to people being more engaged and want to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents.
No, I totally agree, and that's why we wanted to kind of separate out these, because everything could start in year one, but there are some things that are exactly what you said, like they're the low hanging fruit, as you say. So we really want to separate those out with this Act Now. Other feedback?
I just want to say it was excellent presentation, very thorough and comprehensive. And I was very pleased to see the focus and emphasis amongst many highlights with regard to paying attention to climate change issues going forward. So I commend you for that, but really good presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Let's say, John, we could put that dog that's in it, well, if
Put
need
it
a
that
place to
way.
go, maybe
Yeah.
that would be a good thing to put in the small dog park with the
Sure.
signage, and there you have just a park.
So it'd be, oh, there's a dog, maybe there's a dog park.
Exactly. Needs a place to go. Talk about
Right, anything else? I'd love to oh, yes, please.
1.3, it would celebrate and uplift the diverse cultures of Palm Springs. Diversity and representation of that is really important to me. And I think it's important to encourage people to use all of our parks, because we know that a lot of the events that we have are mostly take place at one park. Demuth Park is, I think it's the biggest park that we have in Palm Springs, and
It
it's
is.
underutilized. I love, going by Demuth and seeing families there using the park, but I think it'd be great if we encourage people to do more events there. And then we have Desert Highland. I'd love to see more events there. Just putting that out there, but I appreciate seeing them.
I would love to collect everyone's sheets,
You can
or
grade
if
them?
you. I
Put her name.
promise you all get a gold star. If you wanna keep it for any reason, we could also just take a photo of it. So Christian and I will come around and you can either hand it to us or.
God, you look
take
good.
it. Thank you. I know this was a long one, but it was really important to take all of your feedback at this fine grain of detail.
Can I ask a silly question? Not silly
No
maybe,
silly
but
question.
is our new director going to be told any of this? Like, can he get a, hey, hit the ground running on December 9th?
I'll give that question to Lori.
Yes, I'll throw this anecdote out as an example,
Okay,
who you're getting in your new director.
Well, it's a male, obviously, you just said that.
yeah,
Yes, and his name has, I think the press release went out on him today.
yeah, I met him.
I had the privilege of being in the interview panel. And one of the things that we did, we had 5 of our top ranked candidates that we wanted to evaluate on a number of criteria, and that we wanted to get to know some. And one of the things that is really important to all of us is how somebody communicates with the public. How they translate this master plan or something like that into talking to a neighborhood organization. So about 10 days before the interview, we gave each of them one of the background studies that had been done for the master plan, and this was a critique of our programs, our programming, our staffing. And we asked them to come prepared to give a presentation to us as if we were a neighborhood organization, as if we were all lay people and just wanting to know what the city was up to with the new plan. I will tell you, with all deference, that it was not an easy read. It was a very technical 12 or 15 pages that made my head hurt first 2 times I read it. And so when the individual candidates came in and applied and were interviewed, each of them had made a PowerPoint, and each of them presented it in lay terms as if they were speaking to an audience that was just somebody in the community. And Nick, who was selected, just knocked our socks off. He put together a PowerPoint that had some original images, he didn't just take them off the website. He had not just a recitation or a summary or a book report of what was in this, but some insight and perspective and putting it in context. He gave his presentation with, 20 slides, hitting the keypad, never once looking at it, never once looking at any notes, and he just spoke to us in a way that really impressed all of us. He had such a command, he immediately was able to discern what the salient points were, what was most important, put it in context and explain it to it, so it even made sense to me. And it was just, he did a really remarkable job. At that point, I thought, wow, if he's the final guy who's selected, I can step out the door tomorrow and he can pick up without me even needing to talk to him. So I have very high confidence in his ability to come up to speed quickly. And I will tell you that I've been asked to stay on a little bit for some transition period. I can't imagine he needs more than an hour or two, but in the event that he does, I will stick around a little bit more to
What's his
help
name?
him out. His name is Nick Gonzalez.
Gonzalez, yeah.
And he comes to us from Ontario,
Canada or
California,
California?
Inland Empire. But he has spent a great deal of time in Palm Springs, vacations here, has roots here, and is excited to come.
I couldn't agree more. But that's why I wanted to ask, so, because I wanted the rest of the commission to know, like, we're getting somebody who probably can step in and start working. Which is great news for us.
Yes, Chairman Raleigh was on the same interview panel, and we were pretty unanimous and strongly so.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for your time, and if
Awesome
you-
job, by the way, really awesome
you.
job.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, it's been, you all have really been, not you all at this table, for sure, thank you for coming to all of the engagement processes and, you know, being a familiar face in the crowd, but thanks for asking good questions, Rod, I really appreciate throughout this process, when you wanted to know something, you didn't hesitate to get into a conversation on the details. And the staff and the whole community of Palm Springs, it's really just been a joy, this whole process, even with, you know, the bumpy parts along the way. So thank you for making it such a great experience. And if you don't mind putting your name on it, it can be anonymous if you want, but if you don't mind putting your name, just in case, you know, we have any follow-up questions.
Don't judge.
No judgment. Judgment free. Thank you.
Whoops, there, yeah.
Sorry.
Do we actually have to vote on approving the draft? We do, right?
Oh, do you?
So the public can see this. I will see people taking pictures.
Yeah.
But this is 2000.
The recording of the Parks and Rec meeting is always on the website. It includes the presentation items. So everyone could always go back and look at it again.
The part I can't say is that it's about tomorrow, I don't know if it's. Okay, yes, it is.
Yeah, it's usually the next day. Yeah. I meant to say something about that because I saw people taking pictures and I forgot.
This was an action item.
Yep.
And I would suggest that you entertain a motion to approve the rough draft. Subject to bringing it back to the next meeting of the commission.
So moved. Second.
Okay, have a roll call vote. Commissioner Adamine,
Approve.
Vice Chair Coladinado,
Approve.
Commissioner Davis,
Approved.
Commissioner Diaz,
Approved.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Approved.
Commissioner Ryan,
Approved.
Commissioner Finley,
Approved.
Chair Moralia,
Approved.
Commissioner Nagaya.
Approved.
Motion carried.
Do we have any ad hoc committee updates?
Just very quickly, on the whole, ad hoc committee, we've been in regular contact, via emails. That process is moving forward. We've had regular communication with, city officials, with Mike Ladson, and, lots of exchange of ideas for the, process moving forward, so it's on a positive trajectory, you know, going forward with the whole project.
Cool. Dog park has no updates. your master plan, right?
Shalina just gave mine.
Okay, park enhancements is Jace.
Nothing to add, I think our project manager covered it mostly, so.
Is that all the ad hocs?
I have a quick question about the ad hoc
Yeah.
because, I'm on a couple of them and I don't know how it works. If you need, if you contact me if we're having a meeting or. Okay, perfect, okay. I wasn't sure how.
I think
Nothing for this Wednesday. This time says after commissioner comments, anybody?
The veterans, activities, I'm a veteran. And I just had one question, I'm an old veteran, so I don't have an ID card with my picture on it. I have an ID card that says Veterans Administration, my name, the branch of service I was in, and my social security number. So, how would I prove that I'm a veteran if I want a flag or if I want a free lunch? You take my word for it, or show up with my DD 214?
You don't have a tattoo?
No, you know what, I didn't get one, we were all gonna do it one day when we got drunk, but it didn't happen.
It could be like the airport that says veterans, please come in line. They don't ask for ID, they just.
I believe it's done on the honor system.
Okay.
But I don't know that for a fact. I will look into it and get back to you tomorrow.
I mean, I can bring my card and my, you know,
Yeah.
driver's license.
I think that should suffice.
Yeah, me too.
All right, will I get a free lunch?
As you should.
There you go.
I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Pride. It's coming up this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and in that spirit, I will be hosting a workout on Friday. It's a special Pride workout, 11 a.m. on Arenas, on the Arena stage. So if you can make it, I'd love it. I
Oh,
have
really?
flyers.
That's where you're doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's my second year doing it. So I have flyers out there. Ignore the legs. I didn't have a G-rated version of the flyer, but PG-13. It's not
What's the workout?
It's a low impact aerobics workout. Yeah, 45 minutes. Anybody could do it.
You said 4 to 5 minutes?
45. Nice surprise,
Similar to what you do in the park.
Yes, similar to the workout that I do at.
I went to a workout Sunday night at Arena. I was working out at that DJ.
It'll be similar to that.
Similar to that. Mockville.
Any other commissioner comments?
Yes, if I may. Just wish everyone a very happy and safe Halloween. And please, next Tuesday's election day. If you haven't done so, please vote. I'll be at a voter registration table on Thursday at Village Fest. I will be in costume. So, if you have any questions with regard to voter registration or the election process forthcoming, please feel free to drop by my table. I'll answer questions.
Will we be able to recognize you?
Yes.
Are you getting up for a zap and kinds of stuff for the election?
I'll be hopefully on the information, so if there are questions about registration or the elections or candidates, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I'll be at the Stonewall Governance table. I want to wish a happy Veterans Day to our veterans, to all veterans. And that's it.
Thanks.
Real quickly, if you're going out to Village Fest on Halloween, last year, the Parks Department, the staff did a phenomenal job. The number of events and sort of activations for kids and their families, it was very impressive. And so if we get a chance to get out there and support them, but at least acknowledge the work that the staff members are doing and it was really well done. So thank you for doing that and creating that opportunity for young people.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn? I need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, you,
Motion to adjourn. Second.
The Parks and Rec Commission meeting is adjourned at 7:56 p.m. Next meeting on Monday, November 25th, 5:30 p.m. Right.
I think you're gonna do it.
I will miss the November.